Welcome to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles. I'm here with my friend and co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Tracy, I'm really excited about this interview. Our special guest today is Denise Tran. She's a former attorney and she's the founder and CEO of Bun Mee, Vietnamese sandwich eatery, a gourmet fast casual restaurant concept with 4 locations in San Francisco, one in Pacific Heights, one in the financial district, and 2 in the SFO terminals, Terminal 1 and Terminal 3. Bun Mee has been nationally recognized as a pioneer in the Asian sandwich niche, making delicious bun mee sandwiches with wide crossover appeal. Launched in 2011, Bun Mee blends the street food concepts of Vietnam with Denise's flavorful modern interpretations using fresh local ingredients. Within months of opening, Bun Mee was critically reviewed, with many of their menu items landing on San Francisco's best list. In 2013, Bun Mee was named on Fast Casual magazine's top 100 movers and shakers in the country at number 28, right between Panera Bread and Five Guys. There's a whole bunch of other wonderful things I'm going to tell you about Denise, but I think we're going to discover them together. So welcome, Denise, to the show.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
I think this is going to be so fun. But before we dig into the nitty and gritty, Denise, I love art, and that piece behind you is mesmerizing. You've got to tell me what's the story behind that piece of art.
Yes, this art piece I just fell in love with. I love to collect items on my travels, and I happened to stumble into an art gallery in LA while I was visiting there. And I was mesmerized by this piece, the colors, the movement. I could not leave it. And it's a piece by an artist named Jonas Fish, a rising artist, and his style is reminiscent of Jean-Michel Basquiat, which is also another artist that I love. And I find this piece resonates with me. I feel like I'm always discovering something new in this piece that I haven't seen before. And the movement, the colors, it's just so eye-catching, and I never get tired of it. And so I'm so happy that it's in my dining room today.
That is so cool. I find it interesting that you're mentioning that, like, you never get tired of looking at it. You're always finding something new. Do you think that's a reflection of your personality?
It really is. I just feel like I'm always driven to learn and to discover. I've always been a curious person. So I travel for hiking adventures. I travel for diving adventures. I love to go to just off the beaten path places, and I love the lessons and the surprise you get from new discoveries. I think that's just the joy of living. And it's so much a part of what I do. And it inspires me every day when I'm discovering something new, because I can always, you know, put it somewhere. There's always nuggets of learning that I can apply towards being a mom or an entrepreneur or a partner. So it's part of who I am.
Yeah. And this painting so reflects that. The thing that hit me as you were talking, Denise, was this actual drive for exploration and new experiences and your openness to surprises. Can you dig a little bit more? Where did that come from? But was this from your parents, from travels? I mean, a lot of people aren't into surprises, I can tell you.
I, you know, growing up, I lived in New Orleans, and maybe it's a combination of just being, from an immigrant family and growing up, living in New Orleans and not actually, when I was younger, not actually having many opportunities to travel. You know, my parents were first generation immigrants. They worked really hard, like so many. They both had two jobs. I mean, the farthest I went was like Pensacola, Florida. You know, we would have road trips, or Mobile, Alabama, and so for me growing up, there was just a lot of road trips locally. So I never really got to travel and see the world. But I always knew that there was so much out there. And so the moment that I was able to, was old enough to leave, when I was 17 years old, I just never came back. I left New Orleans, and I've been discovering and traveling ever since. And I think I'm just trying to make up for lost times, I guess. But it's just it's something that you just once you catch the bug, it's kind of hard to stop.
I love it. You seem so present, like just really very reflective of each and every moment, would you say?
Yeah, I am. I lost my dad young, well, relatively young. I was 30, and I wasn't a fully formed woman yet. I don't think I was forming, I guess, but I lost my dad, who I was very, very close to.
Wow.
And so during just his loss, um, and his last wishes to me were to take his ashes back to Vietnam. And
Gives me
I
chills.
left Vietnam as a refugee when I was very young, 3. And so I didn't have a connection to the country the way obviously my dad had. And so my journey taking his ashes back to Vietnam, I did that on my own. It was a eat, pray, love kind of trip. I took his ashes back. I traveled solo for 3 weeks from South Vietnam, Saigon area, to all the way to northern and Sapa near China. But along the way, and I'll transition to how I got into banh mi, but along the way, I would stop at food stalls because, you connect with a country through food, through
Mhm.
their people, through their stories, through food. And I was like, I really want to get to know the Vietnam that my father knows, that my father loves so much. And I want to have my own memories. I want to have my connections to my homeland and my birthland. And so I would eat at these stalls, and I would find, okay, this woman makes the best pho, or the best beef pho soup. And I'm like, and I'll convince her, I'm like, can you just go close your shop for the day? Let me go into your kitchen. I'm not going to steal your recipes. I live in the States, but I'll pay you whatever it is. And I'd love to hear your stories. I love to hear how you're doing what you're doing. And she's, I feel like people love to be heard, to be understood, to have someone feel like they're interested in their story. And this is a street vendor who's probably thinking, I'm kind of at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of food
Oh,
vending, right? And so I think maybe for them, some of them felt like someone's interested in what I have to say and what I'm doing. So I'd go in and I would spend, the day with someone, and hear her stories and her recipes. And I did that up and down, Vietnam, south to north. And through those experiences, I was able to connect to my dad, and felt like I had a better understanding of the people, the stories, the food, my dad and his experiences. So again, it goes back to that curiosity and exploration. And somehow it led me to a different path than law. And I think that journey is kind of started from
yeah.
that experience.
So, Denise, it's interesting on so many fronts. One, your dad's last wishes and you honoring them and how close you were to him. Then going to Vietnam and having this very present experience, as Tracy had mentioned. But the piece that also is there is how you see people, right? You don't just see art. You see, it's almost like a feminine energy that you have, or an intuition, or something where you pick up that somebody needs to be heard, or wants to be heard, wants to be valued, wants to be significant, and you honor that, and you pull these beautiful things out of people. Again, I'm putting words into your mouth, but that's what I see in you. Would you agree that you have this kind of sense about people?
I do. My friends tease me all the time. They're just like, you will talk to anyone. I will talk to, a homeless person on the street, or I will talk to a random person on the bus. I'm just someone that loves understanding people, hearing their stories. I genuinely am curious. They also tease me. I have 100 tiers of friends, just because, and everyone thinks they're my best friend. But I think that, I think it comes from an authentic place. It comes from a place of, again, going back to the word curiosity, but just really being interested, and I retain this very wide-eyed curiosity and view of the world and of people.
Mhm.
And I always feel like there's always something I can learn from everyone, anyone. And so I approach life and business that way. And it's always worked. I mean, it's worked out for me, and I feel like it's almost a superpower in some ways now. Um, so it's led me into good places. So you're right. The intuition is definitely there. And I find that it's helped me in my business as well.
Denise, what do you think is the difference? Or maybe not so much the difference, but what has your experience been? I'll phrase it that way. Maybe working with women, or working with men, or being interviewed by women or men, possibly, as far as intuition goes.
Yeah, I find that many differences, and obviously I'm biased. I'm a woman, so I can only speak from my perspective. So sorry for the men out there if I'm mischaracterizing them, but it's just, I find that women do connect to our intuition, and we listen to it, and we feel it, and we're very aware of those feelings, more so than men do. And for me, it's helped me make decisions in my business. And when I interact with men versus women, I find that men notice different things and women notice different things, right? Women are reading between the lines. We're noticing body language. We're noticing even how people dress. We're noticing how they're standing and how they're gesturing. We don't miss anything, right? And so we're reading all that, and those are all data points and inputs for us as we are coloring in that picture or trying to assess a situation. Whereas men are like facts, figures on paper, this is how it is. And so I think that is definitely a strength and a strong point, and you should do that. But I think that they also don't catch all the other stuff, the nuances of a situation. And so in that regard, when women are able to hone in and catch all those pieces and be on top of the facts, figures on paper, we're unstoppable, because that is truly the full picture of any transaction. There's so much going on that you don't see and don't get on paper. I mean, we know, like, if you send a text and you're writing something, right? Like, you're
My.
so you're missing out so much on tone, on sarcasm, like just everything that you're not getting. And I feel like that's sometimes like the analogy of sometimes what how men see make decisions versus women sometimes. So I would say that's a strength that we as women, should hone into and lean into it and continue to develop it and also trust it. I think we're always told that, oh my God, we're being silly, or we're imagining things, or our intuition gets dismissed as not being valuable in a business world, in a business setting, because obviously it's dominated by men. So men are going to have these messages. But as more and more women lead and run businesses, like, we should message that it is a superpower to lean into that, to trust your instincts, to hone into it, not to suppress it. Because I think when you do, you miss out on so much of the information gathering that you can have to make a decision.
I think you're absolutely right. And Tracy, I don't know about you, but this is a colorful woman.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm thinking, and a feminine woman, I wished I would have wore more color today, right?
You've got your couch. You've got your couch,
jacket.
Rebecca.
I have my
Your couch is turquoise. So
There
right,
you go.
couch warms it all up, right? So for me, my son took my chair that I usually sit in out of my office, and this is actually the only chair, like this very manly chair, that fit through the door frame. So I'm just gonna like soften it all up for a minute, because
Yeah,
I'm
soften
feeling
it up a bit there. You're
very
so
inspired by
feminine.
you, Denise. I'm feeling very inspired by you. Stepping back into my femininity and my intuition.
I love it. I love it.
Yay. Yay. Okay, I have a question for you around this intuition that is highly evolved and developed in you. Do you think when you were walking the streets in Vietnam and just basically curious and asking questions and hearing people's stories and looking at their food and asking how they made it, do you think you knew the future? Was there some intuition at work there that was planting seeds for the future? You didn't go thinking, oh, gee, I'm going to start Bun Mee, right? So
No.
do you think we really know all the time what we're picking up? Because it sounds like it was a bit of time after that.
So let me tell you, that's a really good question. So the way that I didn't, as I mentioned, I'm just a naturally curious person. And so I see my connections through travel, through food, through connections with people, through conversations. They're all data points that don't come together to make an immediate picture. And that's really, there's no intent. Like, if you have that intentionality, then you're forcing it, right? Because then it becomes inauthentic. The authenticity is just being curious, right? And these data points almost live out in this, big vision board that you have for yourself, and they're all there. That's how I would frame it for me. So when I had these experiences, there's no intention of any kind. I was just authentically wanting to learn.
Wow.
This is what happened, though. I'm in New York now. I'm living in New York. I decided coming back. Life is short. My dad passed away. Do I want to trade hours for dollars anymore? I need to scale myself. I want to be intentional about my life. I want to curate my life. I want to design what that looks like. And what did that look like for me? And so for me, I've always been interested in business. I'm the girl that side hustles. I've always been side hustling. Like, I started my first business in law school. I was real estate developing on the side. I was always finding a side hustle in a way. Like, it just, and I was making more money doing that than practicing law, to be honest. So I practiced law as a love and passion. I was doing it also, like, I've been trained that way and was told as an immigrant that this is what you do, this is what success looks like, right? But so I decided, okay, it's got to be a business. I want to start a business because I want to scale myself. and I can only scale myself by starting a business. And so then I'm thinking that I'm at a porchetta sandwich shop in the village, and I walk in with my fiance at the time, and it's this artisan sandwich shop. But in New York, they just do one thing,
Yep.
one thing well, and every shop is like that. So I'm in there, and immediately, I cannot explain this to you. I feel like it's divine intervention, God, spirit, the universe, whatever. But within a minute or two, it's almost like all the data points I talked to you about just came
Wow.
together in one moment. And I immediately saw Bun Mee 10 years ahead, 15 years ahead, immediately knew what I was going to do, had 100% certainty about it. I left that shop, called my best friend, and said, I'm leaving law. This is what I'm going to do. And she remembers this conversation because she's like, what are you talking about? You have no restaurant experience. You are not a chef. You know, what are you doing?
Wow.
What are you doing? And I was like, no, trust me.
Easy.
I know exactly what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And this is what it's going to look like. And that's what I mean by intuition. When that happens, you trust it. I did not doubt it. I trusted it
Wow.
1,000% when everyone around me told me this is a bad idea. You have no experience doing this. You have no business doing something like this. And you need experience at least. You need to do this, you need to do that. And I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. But this is what my gut tells me. And I know this is what I need to do. And so from then on, it was just and then I followed up with research, right? So I had my
Data. Yeah.
intuition, and then I researched it. I researched the heck out of it. I spent months and months. I would have a critical question for myself. And I said, if I can answer yes or no, like it was a green light or red light, right? And once you have these critical questions, if you keep getting green, you keep going, right? I mean, if I get a red, then I'm like, okay, but I kept getting green along the way. And 3 months later, after that visit, this was back in 2008, and people couldn't even pronounce bun mee.
Mm.
And this is New York. We're not talking about a small town. We're talking about, metropolitan, cosmopolitan New Yorkers could not pronounce bun mee, and they didn't even know what the sandwich was. You had to go to Chinatown, you had to go to alleyways. You just did not really know unless you're a foodie or you're in the know or you're Vietnamese. You're not going to know what this sandwich is. And so not only am I going to the restaurant business, I'm opening and doing something they don't even know what it is. And so I just, it was, but New York Times named it the sandwich of the year.
Nice.
Wow.
And when I saw that, I was like, okay, ding, 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 ding. Like, this is
Yeah,
it. This is
let's go.
it. I'm onto something. This is sandwich of the year. And New York is usually ahead on food trends. And I'm like, I got to get on this. And my thing was, I wanted to create a culinary forward, gourmet artisan sandwich shop that really showcased this wonderful sandwich that I grew up eating. And I was thinking to myself, who brought tacos to the US? Who brought all these great dishes, and who became that person, right? And made it accessible to mainstream America, not just in Chinatown alleyways or in, taquerias hidden somewhere, right? And so for me, I was like, no one had that there was no one for banh mi sandwiches. And what was also interesting is banh mi is the only Vietnamese or Asian sandwich that exists, right? Like we don't have, there's no Asian sandwich out there because Asian countries did not have bread, right? So Vietnam had baguettes, and so from the French, and so Vietnam actually has the only fusion Asian sandwich that's authentically a fusion of French colonial colonization of Vietnam. And so for me, I'm like, okay, here's this accessible sandwich that folks love eating sandwiches for lunch. No Asian sandwich out there at all, right? We have an Asian sandwich. Who's going to bring that to everybody?
You
Why
are.
don't I do that? So
Amazing.
that's kind of what happened. And then when that nugget stuck with me, I didn't let it go. I kept at it. I kept at it. I've and through the obstacles and the challenges, I just knew I was onto something. I trusted my instinct, and I knew that this was what I was meant to do. And so all those data points really helped me, provide me with that foundation upon which to build on. So
Whew,
that's the that's the story.
what a journey.
Incredible. Your convergence point gave me chills head to toe, where everything just came together like a snap in that one moment.
I know it's crazy, and I feel like I've been asked to speak about this, and I explain this story, and I know it doesn't make sense for a lot of people, and it doesn't happen very often. But there are moments when everything is clear and makes sense, and there's so much clarity around something, and you just know this is what you do. And I'm just fortunate to have had that moment. I for me, I'm a spiritual person, so I say that it's spirit, it's divine intervention. There's no other way I can explain it, because I wrote down in my journal all the things that it needed to happen to be successful. And I do a lot of manifestation. And so I wrote down a list of 10 things and I put it away. 2 years later, I opened it. I swear, 7 things happened on my list. And it was insane. And so
Goodness.
from that point on, early on, I just really believe in the power of manifesting, intuition, vision boarding, really seeing things. And because that helps provide that clarity and focus, for me anyway, to do what I do.
Wowza. It reminds me of an interview, Denise, we did maybe 2 or 3 years ago with another lawyer out of Chicago. And my brain is racking trying to remember. I can see her beautiful face, can't remember her name, who had a kind of a similar experience. We should make the introduction for you. Where she was just walking downtown Chicago in an older part of the city, and she instantly had a vision of a particular building and how someday that would be her law office and she would expand her law practice there. It took a period of time, a long period of time before it happened, but it manifested just as she had seen it. To me, and I love the word that you use, Tracy, that convergence, where all the data points came together and instantly, a flash happened and you knew instantly. And then the lawyer in you stepped in,
Yes.
asking the critical questions, making sure all the,
Yes, yes. I think when people hear this, they just assume there's no work behind it, and that's not what I'm saying. I think I say intuition plus, but you
Mhm.
for me it there was so much work behind it. You do your homework. You have to have grit. You have to hustle. You have to be better than the next person. So all that is included. It doesn't just manifest and happen on its own.
No.
But I think yes, but that vision is, and I saw it so clearly,
Mhm.
not just in a year or two. I mean, I saw it in 10, 15, 20 years. It really was this vision. And so I had no fear coming into
Mm-mm.
doing this. And this was in 2009 when I started seriously looking to invest in this business. And this was during the financial collapse in New York, and we were living in New York at the time. And so it was the worst time to invest a ton of money into a high risk industry and business with someone that has no experience. But I just had no fear. I had no fear. It was that vision and that intuition was so strong,
Nice.
coupled with all the research that I've done, that I just moved forward fearlessly.
That's so interesting that you use the term high risk, because the burning question that I've had for you for like the last 5 minutes is, we're talking about intuition and tapping into it and then doing research to back it up. But I still want to know, do you consider yourself to be a risk taker? And if so, can you quantify it? Like what percentage risk taker?
Yes, I am a risk taker. Yeah, I've been a risk taker all my life. But but when I say that, it's not I'm an analytical person. You mentioned I'm a lawyer and all of that. So I would say I take very calculated, measured risks, but I have the stomach for high risk, if that makes sense. But I'm not rash, and I don't just run off and take risks just for the sake of taking a risk. But when I do the homework and I follow my intuition and it all points to this, I will take that full risk. I will go all in. But I trust in my work, and I trust in the intuition. And I will take that risk fearlessly.
That is awesome.
So, question for you, Denise. The future of Bun Mee. I know you're getting ready to open up another location here just in a few days, so you're continuing to grow. What do you see the future? Are you going to be as popular as tacos are in the US and we never heard of them 50 years ago? Is that the plan? And just tell us a little bit about where you're going and where Bun Mee is going.
Right. So, I set off my mission when I set off to do this was to make banh mi sandwiches part of everyone's lunchtime vernacular, right? So if you're like, hey, I'm gonna have pizza, I'm gonna burger, I'm gonna go get a salad, I'm gonna go get whatever, I'm gonna get a banh mi. Like it just is along the list of everything else, right? Um, that was always the mission, and so that's the future for us. We want to be that. There's no national Vietnamese fast casual brand at all that I can think of. And we want to be that. We want to be the Shake Shack of Vietnamese sandwiches. We want to be, when you think of Vietnamese sandwiches, you're like, yeah, banh mi's around the corner. So for us, the future is, the on paper, I'd like to see 50 units in the next 7 years, right? We have a corporate and franchise path. We will continue to grow corporate stores, but we will leverage the expertise and the local know-how from folks that are in towns that we don't really know and don't have expertise in, that will franchise in those locations so that we can go and be a part of those communities that we, and really help others who love banh mi. We get asked many times, this is how it got started. We got asked a lot of times, can you franchise? Can you go here? Can you go there? We got asked by known, I won't mention here, but very well-known brands to help us franchise within year 2 of my business nationally. And so this is where I go back to the risk and the decision-making part. I turned them all down. I had many, many opportunities within a year or 2 of growing fast, big, partnering up with bigger brands, known brands, and I turned them down. And this is me deciding, okay, what is important to me? Am I just doing this to make a lot of money? Was that the intuition? Was that what was given to me? Or am I a steward of this great, idea and food and culture and heritage, and I'm going to learn as much as I can about it and grow it wisely and thoughtfully, because that's what matters to me. And I think when you do that, money will come, right? So for me, I turn them all down, and that's why I'm 13 years in and I only have 5 shops, but Starbucks took a long time too. So, but where I'm coming from with that is, that was my intuition, was just like, look, I know why I'm doing this. I know, and I'm not doing this, so I'm not going to partner with you. I know when to say no, because that's not for me. And I'm going to do this the right way, or the way I want to do it. And when I'm ready, when I know my model, when I know what I'm doing, so that I can teach others, then I will be ready to scale. And so for me, we had the COVID for 3 or 4 years of just what the F, right? And so that took us, behind, but I feel like now I'm just in such a great place that I can do that now, and I'm doing it on my own terms. And I'm doing it in a way that's thoughtful, that I've spent the time and effort and energy to really know what I'm doing and know my business. So the sky's the limit, to answer your question. I'd love to see Bun Mee all.
She's amazing. She's amazing. She's amazing.
So I don't know if she just lost her internet, but it is amazing, isn't it?
I want to know, I want her to describe a bun mee sandwich. I got to know, like, give me an example of a bun mee sandwich. She's so inspirational, Rebecca.
She's very inspirational. I also want to know why she changed from the Vietnamese spelling to this bun mee. It's pronounced the same, but why she chose to do that, because it just when I say it, it just sounds warm and cuddly and intriguing and all of those kinds of things.
Fun. When she was just talking, when Denise was talking about, being a good steward of the small things, it reminded me of, and I think I even saw you smile when she said that, because back in the day, you told me to be a good steward of the small things, large things shall come. And they have.
And they have. They have. And I was thinking about that yesterday, about how proud I am of what you've accomplished in these just handful of years.
Amazing.
Hey.
I am so sorry. Technical difficulties. I don't know what happened. My phone just shut down in the middle of something great, I feel like.
No
because it gave us a chance to rave about you.
Yeah, we continued on. Hey, we do have a couple of questions. Actually, Tracy, you start with your question, because I want to know that first.
Okay, wait.
What the bun mee actually is.
Right. Can you describe an example of a bun mee? Is it several different sandwiches that you can choose from? Or is it like one particular sandwich, just for people like me who just don't know, but want to know and want to taste one?
Right. No, totally. So bun mee is the Vietnamese word for bread.
Okay.
So it's the Vietnamese word for bread, but what it is it's a sandwich, right? And the sandwich typically comes, it's a French baguette.
Okay.
That is a French baguette. And it typically comes with lots of different types of proteins in it, right? And so the commonalities of a bun mee sandwich would have pickled carrots and daikon, cilantro, jalapenos if you eat spicy. There's like mayo. There's pate for the adventurous, but it's really about all these great marinated proteins like pork, or 5-spice chicken that we have, or lemongrass pork. We have lemongrass tofu that's grilled. And we have steak, so it just changes with the different proteins that it has, but like a traditional bun mee sandwich kind of contains those ingredients. But at our shop, we kind of change it up, right? So we'll have we have a traditional bun mee sandwich, but then we'll also kind of have interesting twists in sandwiches that kicks it up a notch and makes it even more unique and interesting, but still using Southeast Asian flavors and ingredients that people know and love. So it's a combination of, when you're thinking about it, it's like the crunchiness, umptious mayo-ness, and a little bit of heat and a little bit of pickles. And then you've got this sweet and savory from the marinades, and obviously a warm toasted French baguette. So it's the combination of all those great flavors coming into one, and it's so delicious.
You know what?
Amazing.
As you were describing this, it reminds me of the painting behind you. All these different ingredients and something to discover every single time you go into a bun mee. Let's combine this with this. It's always going to have a Southeast Asian flavor to it, but everything else is a mix and match and something to discover every single time you go in. So it kind of reminded me of your painting.
Yeah, it's a nice change from your, ham and cheese deli slice sandwich. It's kicking it up a notch.
Kicking it up now. So we're coming to the top of the hour, but I have one last question before you tell us how everyone can get hold of you, and that is the name, Bun Mee. Now, I know that is a Vietnamese name, but you don't spell it like that. Can you tell us what the logic is behind that?
Yes. So bun mee is, when I thought of a name of our shop, one of the things that was so frustrating to me as I was telling people what I wanted to do is everyone was mispronouncing it, right? The Vietnamese word bun mee. Everyone was mispronouncing in different ways because it's spelled BANHMI. So it's a little confusing because people, so I was like, okay, so part of my charge is I'm going to educate folks on how to say it correctly. And so it really is the phonetic spelling of bread, Vietnamese word for bread. But then it's also a fun play on words because I love puns. And so it's a fun pun to say, and it rolls off your tongue, and it's memorable and it's fun to say. So that's kind of the story behind our name.
Well, bun mee. I love it.
Bun Mee.
So tell us, Denise, how can our listeners and our audience get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can find us at our website, www.bunmee.co, not com. That's our website, and all the information about us is on our website, and you can also find us on Instagram at Bun Mee, Bunmee.
Wowza, what a phenomenal conversation. Denise, thank you for sharing your heart and your vision. You clearly have found your purpose. It was boom, it happened, but you found it, you ran into it, you embraced it, and now you're sharing it with others. So we really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me be here and for me to share my story with you. Thank you so much.
And Tracy, how about a wrap up from you?
Rebecca, there's so much to say. I loved this entire conversation. And, just from a spiritual perspective, I mean, just the fact that it all started with this journey that you went on at your dad's last request, it's almost like he just gave you this divine, God wink, and it all, collided together in such a beautiful way. And I agree with Rebecca that you have found your passion and your purpose. You've used your intuition, all of your skills, your analytics, probably a lot of the attorney skills that, you've acquired along the way, and just, again, rolled it all into this fabulous, fabulous business, and, bringing something new, right? Like, who doesn't want to be the person who innovates? And, you're going to be known for bringing the bun mee to America. So Thank you for everything that you've invested into this, your time, your energy, your intuition. You're just fabulous, truly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. And thank you to our listeners today. Make sure to share Denise's interview with others that will be inspired by it. Of course, like and comment. And we'll see you next week on another episode of the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged.